Hey, I'm Jesse. Let's have a devotion. We're going to look at Daniel chapter 11, verses 36 through 39. And we're going to add a little something on to our list of fulfilled prophecies, but it's not actually a fulfilled prophecy. And you'll see what I mean when we get there. Here's Daniel 11, 36 through 39. Then the king will do whatever he wants. Okay, that should tell you this is bad news. The book of Judges, which we've studied, it's titled Failure, Lust, and Loss. Go back and watch our series of the book of Judges. Uh, it's it's all predicated on a time when every man did what was right in his own eyes. And the results of that, because of our depravity, our sin nature, is chaos and bloodshed and lust. So the king will do whatever he wants. An unchecked, unredeemed king. Watch out. We're now talking about the Antichrist. He will exalt and magnify himself above every god. Okay, at this point, we're still sort of parallel to Antiochus Epiphanes IV, but he didn't necessarily claim to be God himself. He put an altar to his pagan god in the Holy of Holies, but it's not quite the same thing as what the Antichrist is going to do, magnify himself above every god. And he will say outrageous things against the God of gods. Do you remember how the little horn of Daniel 8, that emblem of the Antichrist, is mouthy and makes great boasts? He'll be successful until the time of wrath is completed, because what has been decreed will be accomplished. This is scary. He will be successful. So deal with that first. This maniacal, self-deifying, unsaved, unchecked, unbalanced world leader is going to do whatever he wants, and he's going to be successful at it. All right. That's scary. That's scary because we're on the heels of a description of an attempted mass genocide of the Jews. Okay, there's already been, if the Maccabean account is reliable, there's already been slaughter of innocents, and we've seen twice now. Once when Antiochus Epiphanes IV was returning from having this meeting with Ptolemy VI, trying to usurp his new successor, getting back on the throne to overthrow Ptolemy VII. And it doesn't work. The two of them just lie to each other. Even their lies were prophesied. But on the way back home, he kills 80,000 Jewish men, women, and children. And then at another point, he goes off and he's defeated again. And on the way back home to Syria, he stops by Jerusalem and destroys desecrates the temple, commits the abomination of desolation. And now you can see that the content has shifted. We've established the archetype of Antiochus Epiphanes IV, and now we're talking about somebody else. He will be successful until the time of wrath is completed, because what has been decreed will be accomplished. So God will let the bad guy win for a time. This is prophetic into the apocalyptic future for you and me, because it speaks to God's retributive justice. And the means that carry out God's retributive justice are exactly as God foresaw. He can use everything that the devil tries in accordance with his own redemptive purposes. And this guy's going to be given free rein for a while. So have you ever felt like the bad guys are just winning? Does it ever feel like you're just way behind? Like we're down by 21 points and it's the second half. We're halfway through the third quarter. This may be a deficit that's too overwhelming to overcome, and then you do it. I'm not like a Patriots fan. I mean, their concession stands helped raise funds for the Boston Crusaders when I was a member of that drum corps. But you do gotta give it up to Tom Brady. All right, one of the biggest comebacks in Super Bowl history. Comebacks do happen, but man, they're noteworthy because you get to these times where it does feel like the bad guys are winning. Now zoom out to a much larger scale than football. We're talking about a world dictator possessed by the devil, and he's going to be successful until the time of wrath is, here's the operative word to me, completed. Okay, it serves a purpose because God has given us over to our own devices. He's going to let us have what we demand. And that's going to come to a point of completion because what has been decreed will be accomplished. Remember, this is not just a book of guesses. These are decrees. That denotes authority, doesn't it? That you can decree what history is going to be before it is. Remember, this is Daniel talking about what's going to happen, and he's been right about all of this stuff so far. So this guy who predicted all of this, the messenger of God on behalf, of this angel who came on behalf of God, it's all happened. And now he's telling us our future. He will not show regard for the gods of his ancestors, the God desired by women, or for any other god, because he will magnify himself above all. One commentator said this right here, the God desired by women, believes that it's this common desire among Jewish women to give birth to the Messiah. But this is a form of monotheism rendered by the devil. He proclaims himself to be God, and thereby the ruse is ripped away. The devil's the one who manufactured his own competition in the field of paganism. They're all him. They're all his bots. And then he takes over. He shows no regard for these other false gods because they've all been names for him anyway. He's tired of the pseudonyms, tired of the nom de plume, tired of the masquerade. And so he proclaims himself to be God, and people realize the power at work behind the beast is the devil, and they still worship. They worship anyway. Instead, he will honor a God of fortresses, a God his ancestors did not know, with gold, silver, and precious stones and riches. He will deal with the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign god. He will greatly honor those who acknowledge him, making them rulers over many and distributing land as a reward. So we're working our way up to the Great Tribulation in Daniel 11. It covers the whole intertestamental period, and now it gets apocalyptic here at the very end because we have only, 6 more verses in this text. And so this God of fortresses, it's one of just military might, it would seem, okay? A God his ancestors did not know, with gold, silver, precious stones, and riches. So what is the God of fortresses? And he deals with the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign god. So I believe this is describing the campaigning and the political chicanery whereby the Antichrist grows from prominence over a small faction to the leader of Magog and the installation of Babylon, like this final great world system ruled by the Antichrist himself. If you recall, the feet of the statue in Nebuchadnezzar's vision was iron mixed with clay. And so it's this foreign substance that the two don't mix together. And it's here where this rock that becomes a mountain that fills the earth is thrown in, not by a human hand, and it destroys it. So here in Rome Part 2, we've got not just this Antichrist charismatic figure whose rise to power seems to be accompanied by even miraculous signs and wonders that deceive even people who would profess faith in Christ. You've also got the devil at work straight up behind him. And that kind of possession has never worked out. It's not sustainable. It always gives way to chaos. The pigs run off the cliff. The boy in Mark 2 throws himself into fire and into water and eventually has to be cast out by prayer. Jesus himself is the only one who could do it. Demonic possession led to the devil possessing Judas led to Judas's suicide. It never works out well, but that will be the power behind this final world dictator. And you'll notice that it's a God of fortresses, but it's not necessarily one of weaponry. I see manipulation. I see bribery. I see political chicanery by way of just wielding great wealth. Instead, he will honor a God of fortresses. When you think fortresses, think a military hideout that's well established and protected. It's a safe place to be from attack. A God his ancestors did not know. Okay, so they didn't know this before. They have a newfound security. Zechariah and Micah and Isaiah refer to this Assyrian. And so that's why I think that it's possible that the Antichrist would be this Muslim leader who seems to bring about a shaky sense of peace between Israel and the rest of the Middle East. He may be embraced by Muslims as the 12th Imam, and then Jews would even respect him to the point of making a treaty with him. And so instead, he will honor a God of fortresses, a God his ancestors did not know, with gold, silver, precious stones, and riches. So he's loaded for bear. And he deals with the people who have control over those fortresses with the help of a foreign god. I think that means he's possessed by the devil. And he'll greatly honor those who acknowledge him. Okay, so if you say nice things to me, I like you. That's kind of narcissistic. Narcissists are actually pretty easy to manipulate. All you got to do is say nice things to them. Okay. I'm not suggesting that you try to manipulate a narcissist. I'm just saying this is how he's treating others. He greatly honors them when they acknowledge him, and he makes them rulers over many, and he distributes land as a reward. This is like how North Korea works right now. And you got to bow down to even the portrait of the dear leader. And as a result, you get to live in Pyongyang. Not because you showcase merit and have the proper education and aptitude, but because you're just loyal to the dynasty. Now we have it's the third generation dictator in charge of North Korea. And you get to live in Pyongyang and you have a nice life. Putting on a fake show for the South Koreans and American tourists with their little guides, their handlers have to take them everywhere. It's a reward for your loyalty. So that's not so far off from the way that Kim Jong-un functions, and Kim Jong-il before him, and Kim Il-sung before him. So think about that, but outside the borders of North Korea, which is just like the size of Mississippi. I think globally it's happening. He deals with the strongest fortresses with the help of a foreign god. He will greatly honor those who acknowledge him, making them rulers over many and distributing land as a reward. We see a vision of 10 horns, and one rises, taking out 3 of them. Okay, and that is the little horn that makes great boasts. That's the Antichrist. Daniel has seen the winged lion, the bear with the 3 ribs, the leopard with the 4 wings, and he seems to just totally accept all those in stride, but he's got questions about that 4th beast. It's got these 10 horns on top, and then 3 of them are taken out by a little one. This is why later on when we get to, I think it's Revelation 13, you'll need to keep track of the structure of the Antichrist's kingdom. I think we're getting an inside look on how he manipulates his way into power. It's mostly by just smooth talking. He's making deals. He's rewarding people who are loyal to him. Idi Amin did this, like Hitler did this, like anybody who defies you gets publicly executed. Anybody who serves just a sycophant at your feet gets showered with dominion over land. And that's a great way to foster loyalty in your inner circle and fear over everybody. So the Antichrist does this in the vision. You've got the 10 horns, 3 of them go, 1 of them rises. That's why you get 1 plus the 7. And you start with the 10. So keep those numbers in mind as we get into Revelation. You're going to see the Antichrist start out small and then rise in prominence. And he's going to mostly use political chicanery and money to manipulate his way to the top. So when we get into the middle of Revelation, you'll see like the numbers of subject vassal kingdoms kind of oscillate from 10 to 7. Why is that? Well, I think it's because you start with these 10 horns. 3 of them were taken out by the little horn, and then you've got 1 over the 7. I remember that because you end up saying, I love you. Yes, that's right. Don't judge me. I had to use my fingers like a kindergartner to kind of grasp this. Like, there's 10, 3 are gone. We'll add 1. What does that leave you? So what you end up with is this alliance of nations that I think is Magog. And I think you start with those 10, take out the 3, the Antichrist rises. That I think becomes Gog and Magog. Gog is the ruler over this alliance of other nations. Okay, but stay tuned. We'll get to that. And I'll test out my little kindergarten method. Don't judge me for having to keep track of count that way. And we'll see if the students make sense with it. Then maybe I'll also preach it in my sermon. Don't be discouraged when the bad guys seem to win. And don't be disturbed when the bad guys seem to be just like rich and loaded. Don't be discouraged when, the bad guys overly exaggerate themselves and they seem just utterly unchecked in everything, because God's going to complete his wrath, and what has been decreed will be accomplished. As scary as this can be, that's the most important thing here. So let's add this on to our list. Okay, look at all the prophecies that have been fulfilled so far. The kings of Persia in verses 1 through 5. The first attempted arranged marriage between the Ptolemies and the Seleucids in verses 6 through 9. The fallout from that. The wars that precipitate in verses 10 through 12. And then the reprisals in verses 13 through 20, setting the stage for the next arranged marriage. Enter the Greeks growing in prominence. And then Antiochus Epiphanes IV in verses 21 through 26. And then in verses 27 through 30, you've got the scheming and plotting that ultimately fails. And then another Roman enters the picture. Gaius Populus Laenus defeats Antiochus IV and he humiliates him. But this ends up making Antiochus Epiphanes IV even angrier, setting the stage for the fulfilled prophecies of verses 31 and 32. The Maccabean revolt has begun. Verses 33 through 35, they're also betrayed even by some people in their own ranks. This brings us to what prophecies have been fulfilled in verses 36 through 39? None, because these are for us. We've just shifted from Antiochus Epiphanes IV, and almost indistinguishably, it's hard to even draw the line exactly where it happens in the sentence, but now we're talking about the ultimate fulfillment, of which Antiochus IV Epiphanes, crazy and bloodlust driven as he was, is just a mere shadow, just a mere forecasting. So that's how the last great world dictator is going to rise to power. So don't be discouraged when the bad guys are rich and loaded and successful, because God is the one who wins in the end. And what he has decreed will come to pass. So choose the right side.